Arcade Heroes.
Get ready!
Greetings, everybody. It's Adam in the dark at my arcade in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm Adam with Arcade Heroes, just coming to you from a real arcade and covering some news here. That'd be the reason you clicked on this, I guess. This is a slight break from the IAPA video stuff, as wanted to at least acknowledge this and a couple of other things. But I guess when it comes to IAPA, we are working hard on that. This year was just such a busy show. I can't recall a time where I've been so busy and my schedule so packed with things. And I do apologize to anybody who, prior to the show, I said to meet up. I spaced times with at least a couple of people, possibly more. There was another one where I wanted to go and hang out at Arcade Monsters, but I got bogged down in some required work stuff, and I was up till 2 in the morning that day, which was very lovely. But overall, as a very quick review of IAPA in general, just again, super packed with stuff. Almost didn't leave the Games and Arcade Pavilion area, which is in the southwest corner of the show, where most of the arcade manufacturers are located, until Thursday. So like Tuesday and Wednesday, I was there all day filming and chatting with people, but mainly filming and playing a few of the games that you've seen posted already. I would like to do a full IAPA review, like a live stream where you guys can ask questions and we can focus on certain stuff, but we just need to finish getting through those posts. And do apologize that this year I've also been a little bit slower on getting a lot of those posted compared to previous years, and just because there's been a lot to do. I've been trying to get to the videos, but there's just been other things in life that have made it somewhat delayed. But along those lines, I would say that for my own arcade, where I'm sitting right now, there are some very potential big changes coming for what I'm going to be doing in the future, and still looking into possibilities. Nothing set in stone until like things are signed or whatever. But yeah, we'll see. I might be fundraising a little bit too, to help on certain things, but also going to be selling off some stuff that's just been sitting in my back room collecting dust. So I guess stay tuned for that if you're interested in helping out the arcade where I'm at, which is called Arcade Galactic. But anyways, to the news of what I wanted to cover. So yesterday, from when I'm recording this, December 3rd, didn't have a chance to record yesterday. Arcade Heroes turned 19. And so, in case you didn't feel old already, if you've been reading the site for a long time, now you do. Certainly, I feel old. Now, took this opportunity for this year's post to kind of explain what it is that we do at the site, because I know it's not obvious right off the bat for a lot of people who just see a piece of news and click on it and then maybe become interested in following the site. And then I guess that wasn't fully covered in the very, very first post to the site either, which is this one right here, who was posted by the original site founder, Arcade Heaven, on December 3rd, 2006, where it was just a very short post saying, "Welcome to Arcade Heroes. This blog hopes to fill the gap in news covering the world of arcade gaming. We hope to bring you everything arcade, from video games to mechanical cranes. Please bear with us whilst we try to get our stuff together." And there was a couple of posts right after that, like I think the very first super bikes had just recently been announced around that time. But I did not create the site. It was actually somebody within the industry, but they've chosen to remain anonymous because it could affect their employment in said industry. And either way, I discovered the site just, I think, a few weeks after it had started, when a writer by the name of Twisted Supreme attended a show in London called the ATEI show. Now, I believe that show changed its name into EAG, which still happens in January in London every year. And I mean, there's always little changes with shows, except for IAPA. IAPA's been around for almost 120 years at this point, so they just as long as Skee Ball, I think. But with other arcade trade shows, yeah, there's often changes to certain organizational stuff. But either way, that was what hooked me in, and I immediately started sending them tips and such. And it wasn't long where the writers at the time were like, "Hey, you want to join on as a writer since you're sending us all this stuff?" And so I started just posting all the time. But that's also around the time where I met Kevin Williams, who was a major contributor to Site News, especially back in those days. He still does send us stuff on occasion. Just used to be almost every story was sent to us by the Stinger Report, which was nice. But yeah, the why we do what we do is to really cover the video arcade portion of the industry, because if you read other sites out there like IGN or Polygon, and I mean, maybe I'm out of date on some of those. I haven't really read much of the mainstream sites myself in recent times, but you know that they just don't really cover arcades at all. If they do, it's only when something major shows up. Say, like recently, there was the Resident Evil 2 news, which we broke to the wide world of the internet. And we were able to get some information in from the original, or from Bandai Namco, sorry. And it's something we've been able to do for a long time, where we're able to get exclusive information, or the first to provide information about new games that are coming out. But again, this mainstream sites don't really understand this industry. It does not work at all like the console side of the industry and such. And that's where one thing in particular, like there's no advertising dollars that come from the arcade business into the mainstream gaming press. And so for one, there's no monetary incentive for them to really pay attention to it. And so a lot of the times they'll approach it from the same kind of angle that the readers would, where they just assume that the arcade industry is dead or whatever. But then they're perplexed when suddenly this game pops up out of nowhere, whether that's Mario Kart Arcade or Tomb Raider Arcade or Resident Evil 2. You know, it's something, again, with a big IP attached to it that makes them pay attention. But I was arguing with somebody on the Resident Evil 2 video that we posted not long ago, where they sounded genuinely perplexed as to who this was for. Why was this being made? Why would they just make this for some rich people? And it's like, well, obviously nobody would do that. You wouldn't have an industry making stuff just for the few Jeff Bezos and Elon Musks of the world. That's nonsensical. I mean, sure, there are luxury items out there that exist, but in the sense of arcade machines, that's not what they're for. But I know because mainstream press doesn't understand this sector and they don't really cover it outside of these rare posts. That's really what we're here for. We're here to fill in that niche. Now, as explained on this post here, where I've had it on the screen, we don't really cover redemption. You've probably noticed that, and I know we could get a lot more attention if we were to cover how to win at prize machines, or the latest MAME emulator is out and stuff like that. But it's like the real focus of the site is to focus on these brand new games, which there are a lot more than just Resident Evil that's in production. There is a market for this. In fact, it generates millions, if not billions, of dollars of revenue every year. Actually, yeah, I think I saw a statistic recently. I'd have to find it. That I think by the year 2032 or something, it's projected the amusement arcade industry is projected to produce something in the realm of 30 something $billion. And I can't remember it off the top of my head. But that's not peanuts. That's not one last surviving Blockbuster out there, or the last sad payphone on a corner somewhere. That's actually an industry where, like I said, I'm standing in an arcade. I've been running this arcade since 2008 in a mall. And within my general area, I could name off several different competitors, but places that are arcades where you can go and find them. And whether that's Dave and Buster's around One USA, or there's some nickel arcades and a few others. And in fact, right down the hall from me, there's what we call an FEC, a Family Entertainment Center, that is a locally owned one. But they have millions in capital and such. So that's who these new arcade machines are made for. And that's what we cover on the blog. Mostly is like video games, pinball, that's our first focus. And then after that, we'll focus on other things. The reason we don't cover Redemption is just because it doesn't really need the signal boost. If you have a popular redemption game, or you just say you introduce a new redemption concept that kids really go for, you can put it pretty much anywhere and it'll make money. It doesn't need news on it necessarily for them to go out and find it, because they happen to go to the arcade with their parents or their friends or maybe grandma and grandpa, and just see something there, and they'll go for whatever looks flashiest, most popular, gives the most ticket rewards, whatever that is. And so that's where that's not been our focus. And also, personally, I've just never really cared for redemption games, even when I was a kid. Now, granted, there wasn't a whole lot of redemption when I was growing up, but I remember there was a little bit, and I just didn't pay attention to that stuff at all. I found it just didn't interest me. I was interested in video games. And so I tried to present the news from a gamer perspective as well as a game operator or business operator perspective. And hopefully that gets the information across. But I don't want to make this just about me, because Arcade Heroes has not existed just based on what I've done. And especially lately, I've been very thankful for the work that I mentioned Ted has been helping me out with, especially where I've just not had a lot of time on my hands to focus on that. But there are several writers who haven't written anything for the site in a long time. Re-recording this segment to highlight a few other points, but for the first of the writers that I wanted to cover is Heavy Electricity, or Nick Thorpe. We were saddened and shocked to hear on Tuesday, on December 2nd, that he passed away. He was only 38 years old. And unfortunately, we don't know the circumstances surrounding his death, what it might have been related to. Sincere, heartfelt condolences go out to his family, any close friends. I unfortunately did not speak with him for a very long time, but he wrote for Arcade Heroes between 2008 and 2012 under the name Heavy Electricity. As you can see on this photo here, which was posted to the Sega Amusements X account, or back when it was Twitter, back in, I think, 2012 or so, when Nick, who was on the left there, visited the Sega Amusements booth at a trade show. And in the middle there is Patrick Michael, who's the head of R&D at Sega, or at least used to be. I think he still is. And then on the right is Peter Harrison of Codemasters. I think this was taken around the time of when Grid became an arcade game. But Nick would go to Sega Amusements HQ. We would go visit sites there in the UK and write some great articles about those. And it wasn't long after he left Arcade Heroes that he went to write for Retro Gamer, and that's where he's been best known, is Retro Gamer magazine, and writing many great articles over the years about not just games, but the experiences behind playing the games. He was definitely an avid gamer, and again, very saddened and shocked to hear the news of his passing. I had been hoping to find something from Retro Gamer posted about his passing, but at least at the time of this recording, they don't mention it at all. His last article posted to the site was from November, I believe, about the 25 best PS2 games of all time. But either way, I'm glad to have known him, and hope he rests in peace. Ted 9099. He's actually not a former writer. He's still helping out, but he generally doesn't do his own posts. He's more doing a lot. We're doing a lot of collaborative work together on the posts that are showing up on the site now, and so you can catch his work on pretty much every single post that you click on, and so I thank him very much for his assistance and hard work there, as it has lifted a burden from me. He was also the one that found out about the Resident Evil 2 arcade game being tested over in the UK, where he's located. Now, for a few of the other former writers who I've not heard from them in a very long time, Twisted Supreme. He lived in the UK. I know he's a big fan of soccer, or football as they call it there. And he was one of the first writers that was on the site and posted a lot up until about 2009. Unfortunately, I've not heard from him since. I do remember playing Halo 3 with him on Xbox Live Arcade a couple of times. And so that was, I think, the last interaction that I had with him. But hope that he's doing well. Sarah AB87, she has a focus on simulator machines, particularly those from Sega, and so a few of her posts would cover that, which you can catch on the site. I mean, I have seen her like on Facebook and such, and so she is still active somewhere there. Just has been a while since she posted, so hopefully she's still doing good. And then one that I also have not heard from in a very, very long time is MetaFox. And so I knew him through Atari forums, and he was one that discovered the Acton Interactive Comedy and posted about that on the site and posted a few other things, but then just one day suddenly said, I'm going off the grid, and quit the internet, and we never heard from him again. So hopefully he's out there somewhere. If he does come back to the internet, comes back onto the grid and such, then we'd love to hear from him again. But again, we've also had some other contributors, as mentioned, Kevin Williams, the Halfa True Blue Arcade Hero, Jay Devi, NSM, and Sick Hands, and Ben Blake, and several others. If I'm forgetting you, my apologies. But again, just know that it is very much appreciated, the contributions that you've made to Arcade Heroes over the years. And I'd also just, as I pointed out in this post as well, we also do not use AI. I don't use ChatGPT for writing copy or Grok or any of the others out there. I like to, yeah, it takes longer, but I like to, train my brain for that muscle. And sure, I make mistakes, and sure, I might get my grammar wrong sometimes, but I don't like using AI for doing all this stuff. And now, I use some AI tools. Like, it's particularly useful for removing backgrounds on arcade machine images, or upscaling and some really old JPEG images and stuff. It's always been a little bit frustrating in this industry, where oftentimes you'll get manufacturers still using JPEGs, and it's like, stop doing that. It's highly annoying. Just do a transparent background PNG file, and that'll make your product look the best. But yeah, that's pretty much the extent of what I would do, use AI on. Now, I'd also point out before we close here that we recently started the Hall of Fame at Arcade Heroes. So if you go to the top of the site, you can click on Hall of Fame, and then that will take you to a couple of slideshows that we put together that have game creators, as well as famous arcade games. This is one of those things where there's still a lot for us to be putting in there. It's very somewhat time consuming, because I always want to make sure that the facts are right on each one of these. But we'll be adding more to it over time, and just hopefully you guys enjoy that. We also have new releases and unreleased games. New releases every single year. This is the most visited page on the Arcade Heroes website, and to me it shows that there is interest in there, and perhaps it fills in the blanks where people are thinking, oh, there's nothing going on, there's just, Resident Evil 2 just dropped out of the sky for some reason. Well, if you look at this, as you can see, 2025 has been a very, very busy year. I do need to go through this and do a little update, because I might have missed a thing or two in October and November, as all the coverage with IAPA has made it so that I've missed some things. But as you can see here, even on the coming soon list, there's quite a few things that are on here. And yeah, I gotta get that corrected. And we will also be doing a new page for 2026 here by the end of the month. Now, if you are with a manufacturer out there, please let me know if there's anything here that needs a correction. Sometimes there are certain games which might have been canceled. It's just we hadn't heard anything about them in a long time. Like the Playbox Carnival, those guys weren't at IAPA, so I don't know if they're in business anymore. Or anything by Retro Arcade Remakes. Like they had done the Food Fight Frenzy game earlier this year, and there was supposed to be some other stuff coming from them too, but I've not heard a thing, so it'd be good to find that out for sure and get the dates correct so that we can do a nice video of showing what was released in 2025 and then correctly lay out what's coming in 2026. But anyways, again, thank you for following the site. Stay tuned for more IAPA news on the site, as well as a stream here where we can discuss all of this wonderful stuff that's coming to the industry and coming to arcades out there, hopefully at one near you. And we'll catch you on the next video.